Do you know Song Dynasty in history in China? If you know Chinese history, you may know Song Dynasty. Song Dynasty was from year 960 to 1279. And if you have a chance to talk to Chinese people or talk to people who know Chinese history, they probably will tell you Song Dynasty is a weak dynasty. Song Dynasty was not very strong. I want to share with you something about Song Dynasty, something about ergonomics in Song Dynasty. Back to the time of Song Dynasty, the majority of Song Dynasty army was infantry because the Song Dynasty was an agriculture society. Song Dynasty could recruit many infantry soldiers quickly and easily. Then they actually recruit professional soldiers to fight against whom? Who are their enemies? The Song Dynasty's enemies actually were very famous. There were many nomadic people with strong cavalry, like Mongolians. I think you know Genghis Khan. Very strong Mongolian cavalry. And Song Dynasty had to fight with so strong enemies like Mongolian cavalry. To fight against cavalry, not just Mongolian cavalry, there are also other countries. The Song had to design some weapon, they had to design armor, had to design even a strategy for their infantry troops. The history of Song has 3 ergonomic standards, many physical ergonomic standards. There's a standard of height, the height of soldiers, for how to organize soldiers and how to pay the soldiers. And the second standard was about the body size of soldiers, not really, about how they recruit soldiers and select soldiers, how they manage so many soldiers, so many infantry soldiers, based on anthropometric data. And the third ergonomic standard was the weight standard of soldiers. Nope. The weight standard was for infantry armor. The 3 standards were found in official Song Dynasty history. According to official Song Dynasty history, we can find this height distribution in year 1127. The distribution shows very small number of soldiers were higher than 1.81 meter. Very small. There's only 1 unit. The history does not tell us how many soldiers in the unit, but the history tells us how many units, how many troops of soldiers. For soldiers between 1.81 meter and 1.778 meter, there were only 4 units, but more. And for soldiers between 1.778 and 1.763, there were 6 units. So you can see the distribution, so on and so forth. Many soldiers were between 1.654 meter to 1.747 meters. The majority of Song infantry soldiers are about this tall. Basically, in Song Dynasty, they measure the height of every soldier and organize soldiers in different units. This was happening in year 1127, but that was not the only case. From the first emperor of Song Dynasty, he started to use human model to measure soldiers' height. Why didn't he use a ruler? If he just used a ruler to measure height, we may find some soldiers very tall, but not strong enough. So he used human model. But there's also problems of human model. Imagine about 1,000 years ago, the poor human model soldier had to travel in different places, and the results of the measurement could be not so reliable compared to using a ruler. But using human model to measure is more comprehensive, so it's a trade-off. Later, Song Dynasty changed the way of measurement. They used something like a ruler. They call it sticks of equal length. meaning they will have a wood stick. Whoever taller than the stick join this unit. Whoever shorter than this stick get this payment. And in Song Dynasty history, in year 960, 976, year 1008, 1047, 1051, so on and so forth. There's so many times Song Dynasty selected soldiers according to their heights. We can also see the changes of Chinese men during the 150 years. High standard was used by Song Dynasty to organize soldiers and to pay soldiers. But that's not the only standard they used of ergonomics. They also used armor to measure the body size of soldiers. Again, if we only use ruler, we may have very tall soldier but not strong enough. So in Song Dynasty, another measurement was used to measure body size, which is infantry armor. The standard of Song infantry armor was actually published in year 1044 by the third emperor of Song Dynasty, Renzong. And the third emperor of Song Dynasty actually ordered some scholars to edit a military encyclopedia. The military encyclopedia called Wu Jing Zongyao. This military encyclopedia covers famous campaigns, military organization, strategy, weapons, etc. According to the military encyclopedia, there are 5 parts of the Song infantry armor, and there were weight standards for these 5 parts. The first part was helmet. Remember, the infantry soldiers had to fight against cavalry. They need helmet to protect their heads. And they also need some neck covering to protect their neck and their shoulder. So they also need shoulder covering, chest covering, and belly and thigh covering, 5 parts. These are the figures drawn and shown in the military encyclopedia. You can see the 5 parts: helmet, neck covering, shoulder covering, chest covering, belly and thigh covering. Actually, in that military encyclopedia, they also have standard for horse armor. And in year 1133, the 12th emperor of Song Dynasty in Chinese history, he was considered the first emperor of southern Song Dynasty. He gave an order to regulate the weight limit of Song infantry armor, the weight of each part of the armor. Imagine how many kilograms you can carry in your bag. I see many Tsinghua students carry their bags. They may have a computer. Nowadays, notebook computers are pretty light. Some are even less than 1 kilogram. But for most students, their notebook computers, including their power supply, could be around 2 kilograms. And also their books, also their mobile phones, also some other devices altogether. Typical student's bag could be about 6, 7, or even 8 kilograms. Some may carry more, over 10 kilograms. But you don't find many students carry a very heavy bag like 20 or even 30 kilograms. But for Song Dynasty, those Song infantry soldiers have to wear the armor weighted about 30 kilograms. Not weapon yet, just armor, 30 kilograms. And imagine if you carry 30 kilograms and you need to run and you need to fight against cavalry. How difficult could that be? So in Song Dynasty, the upper limit of the weight standard was 30 kilograms, meaning if the armor is too heavy, over than 30 kilograms, then the poor infantry soldiers cannot run or even cannot move fast. These are the weight standards for the Song infantry armor. So in this case, you can understand back to Song Dynasty, when people design and make tools, things for users to do some works, to do some tasks, they need to consider the capability of the users. They need to know how or what they need to do for the task, for the work. In this case, in Song Dynasty, they knew the very heavy armor could probably protect the soldier, but the soldiers need to fight, need to move. Wearing very heavy armor, the soldiers could not fight very well.